The Hearts of Gold podcast is brought to you by the Grow and Share Network, produced by Off the Walter Media Productions.
Welcome to Hearts of Gold. Today I have Elisa with me. Hi, Elisa.
Hi there, Miss Robinson.
Can you tell us about your Girl Scout Gold Award project?
Yes, of course, I would love to do that. So Kids for Kids was my Girl Scout Gold Award project, and it was created somewhere around January of this year, and I made it in order to make art kits through community donations for foster kids in order to make sure that kids are able to create art with their foster families and to encourage individual expression. And the project, it really stresses the value of a positive relationship with caretakers and with good mental health, as well as like emphasizing the idea of creating with others. And so, I mean, the goal of Kids for Kids was to make sure that they're able to create with others and with their families, friends, or by themselves, and to encourage that individual expression that I feel like they need to have for foster kids. And it emphasizes the values of positive relationships and with their foster families, and to develop healthy coping methods through art and through creativity. And when it comes to mental health in the foster care community, that's something that's really vital. The ultimate goal was to give the art kits to foster kids through the ages of like 3 to 12. And they visit the Foster Care Support Foundation in Roswell, Georgia, and it provides resources for foster families in order to continue the sustainment and development of foster children.
What prompted you to choose this for your project?
So it took me quite a while to get to the point of what Kids for Kids was. I began the Gold Award journey way back in my freshman year of high school. I'm now a senior, and it took me a while. I didn't really know what a Gold Award was. I didn't know how to begin. I didn't know. I was jumping from one idea to the other, and my first real idea was having a music and arts day at the Children's Hospital of Atlanta, but I had to be 18 in order to do that. Then I moved on to the Ronald McDonald House in Atlanta, but I was unmotivated, I was uninspired because of like the previous rejections that I had faced. And so for a couple of months towards the end of 2018, I didn't know what I was doing. And so my mom told me about some of her friends that were working for an organization called CASA, which is court-appointed special advocates, and how they work sometimes with foster kids. And she was telling me about the stories of what the kids had gone through and what her friends were experiencing advocating for these children. And so the notion of kids in the foster care system needing help or wanting something more inspired me, and it really struck me because, I mean, there's 14,000 kids in the foster care system in Georgia, and that's a lot of children who are moving around constantly everywhere, and they're moving at an average of twice a year, which is detrimental for mental health, and mental health is a very prevalent issue in the foster care community, and they're victims of abuse and prolonged neglect, and they're deprived of the nurturing environment from their early years of life. And so the whole point of the art kits was to have a sort of coping mechanism, or like an art therapy sort of way. I mean, it's barely scraping the surface of art therapy, but it was precisely what did struck me was the fact that they did need something more. That's what I felt.
And how did you end up partnering with the foster care system?
I was Google searching one night, foster care something in Roswell or in Atlanta, Georgia, laid out one night after my mom had told me about her friends that were working with CASA. And so I stumbled upon the Foster Care Support Foundation, and I was like, it sounds like a great organization. I clicked on their link, I read all about them, and they really interested me. And so I went to visit them to pitch my project idea to them, and they loved it. I loved what they stood for because they have an incredible amount of donations for foster kids all over Georgia that go there. It's crazy how much stuff they have. But one area that they were lacking in was like art supplies, and just having little projects there for the kids that do visit there, because they have a sort of like a daycare daily activity center for foster kids there. And so I was like, you know what, that might be an area that I could help in that organization.
You had mentioned that your original project you had been looking at was related to music, and this one's related to art. What in your background makes you interested?
What I do with music is I play the violin, and I'm very involved in my school, at least with the school orchestra. And then I'm also part of the Georgia Youth Symphony Orchestra. But also, I think art has always stuck around with me since I was a little kid. It's always been something that I've done. And so having it link all together throughout my whole life has really been rooted into my project, and it's something that provided the base of it. And so that's why I think I created Kits for Kids, and that's why it was art-centered.
And how did you collect the supplies that went into the kits?
Community organization, community donation drives. And so we started with 3 main schools in this area, and we had donation drives there for like 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what the school wanted. And so I did a lot of, heavy marketing, heavy promotions for each of them. I had a video, I had posters, and so I sent it out in newsletters and morning announcements at each of the schools, and through just word of mouth. And so that's how I got the first round of art supplies. And I would tell people like, hey, this is what I need. I need paints, I need watercolors, canvases, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a specific list because I had specific art kits in mind. And so that was my first round of donation drives. And so that ended in around May. Then towards the summer, I began to do a lot of inventory for the art kits for the art supplies that I already had. And what I ended up doing was, for the remainder of supplies that I needed in order to match up with everything and even everything out, was I went to local businesses and asked for art supply donations. And it was either through like Kroger or Dick Blick's Art Supplies. And I asked them like, hey, I gave them a letter. I was like, this is what I would like to have. If you would love to donate to this project, I would love if you could. And it took a while to get those donations because I had to go around to a lot of businesses to get the rest of the donations. And that's how I got the donations.
And you also created an Amazon wish list. How did that work for you, and what did that involve?
I mean, I did create the Amazon wish list. However, nobody actually ended up using it. That's the thing. It was more of an actual, I think the physical requesting and like the physical like asking people for it helped a lot more than just saying there's an Amazon wish list, you can use that, because it's just more prevalent if it's in your face rather than on a computer.
What was your biggest challenge during your project, and how did you overcome it?
It was very tough to continue being on top of everything and to keep up with the amounts of donations that I had to have, and like organizing myself and motivating myself, especially throughout the summer, because my project did overlap in between the summer of my junior and senior year. And I was traveling a lot, I was working, and it was an important season that would allow for me to finish my project on time, which was my September deadline. However, I didn't necessarily do a lot of that over the summer because it's summer and half of my project was already finished. I had so many donations. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll be fine. It's okay. You leave things off, and it's because you're your own boss when you're doing gold awards. You're the only one that's keeping you steady, and like you're either slacking off or you're on top of it. There's really no in between. And so I had to receive the remainder of the business donations when I started school and to write all of my final report stuff. And it was just like that last little leg of my project that I was just like, oh, I have time. No, you don't. That I had to keep up with. And so, I mean, I was guilty about it and I had to get it done, or else I wouldn't be finished with at least this cycle of gold awards. Another thing was being able to communicate clearly with specific businesses that I wanted the remainder of the donations from, because I had to call them constantly. I had to be like, hi, I called yesterday. Is there anyone here that I could be able to talk to? And they'd be like, no, come tomorrow. And I would do the same thing, come tomorrow. And so it was just this endless loop, and I had to drop those businesses that were like that. And so those are some of the issues that I did encounter.
And looking back on your project, if there is one thing that you could change, what would you do differently?
I would probably have started it in August and had it be done during the school year rather than beginning in the second half of the school year, and have it overlap with the summer, but also specifically do inventory as much as I could so that I wouldn't overcompensate, because my original goal was 100 art kits, and I probably did have that when I finished all of my school donations, and I ended up with 206, which is wonderful. I was incredibly proud of that. I did not expect that I was going to have double the amount of art kits that I was going to have, but the stress that came with getting the remainder of the donations was probably something that I would change.
And a component of the Gold Award is leadership and team building. And you put a team together in order to put those kits together at the end. Can you tell us about that event?
I had quite a large team of who helped me. I had one of my friends, their mother helped me with a lot of the communications aspect of the project, like the connections to the media or insight on social media and marketing, and just like organizing everything well and knowing how to do a lot of the community outreach. And I also worked with the art service club at my school. And so I did work with the president there in order to organize the school aspect of the project, which was doing the kid creation day or creating the donation boxes, and also working with the teachers at school that were sponsors of those clubs and making sure that they could help me continue doing that. And I also had to lead my other teacher with all of my graphic design components of the project, like my logo, my marketing, and the visual design of the project, but also making sure that I had the proper communications with the other principals and outreach with the other schools. I had to make sure that I was well connected with them as well. And so my whole team, they really did help me. They helped me so much with staying organized, keeping me on track, and just helping me and giving me suggestions if I ever did need something. Also with my advisor, my expert, the CASA volunteer that I worked with, she gave me a lot of insight on what specifically foster kids were going through. And so that's pretty much what consisted of my team. And I appreciate them so much.
Can you share a piece of your project that had a major impact on you, or a special story that came out of your project?
The largest impact that my project had, and I think I touched on it earlier, was the fact that I ended up with 206 art kits. And I think that is absolutely wonderful because I did not expect that going into the project. It was an original baseline of 100 kits, just have it done. And going through the duration of the project, I was surprised with the amount of reaction that I had from the community, the amount of support that I received from my local community that were encouraging of the project, and how much they were willing to donate for art for foster kids and the Foster Care Support Foundation, and to end up with a large amount of kits that I had, and my friends and locals and students that helped me create the art kits in the end was something that I absolutely loved. And having the connection with the community was, I think, the most incredible part of the project, because you would think Girl Scouts, oh, they just sell cookies. No, I think it really would show to the community that Girl Scouts do something more. By doing the Gold Award, it helped a lot. That's what I loved about the project of Kids for Kids.
What other Girl Scout experiences do you have that you'd like to share?
Back in middle school, I would always go to summer camps. It was Camp Misty Mountain, and I absolutely loved it. I went for about 4 summers, and I think that's probably my primary Girl Scout memory that I have, is going to those camps and just being with fellow Girl Scouts and sharing our stories with each other and experiences that we had, and being able to relate that we were in this organization together and like how we've grown in it. That's something that I love about it, that we have those little pockets of people that share something that we do. And that's what I love, was the camps. And that's my favorite part of Girl Scouts.
And what is coming up in your future?
I am applying to college. I'm applying to universities down here in the South. I hopefully will be able to get into one of them and attend a university that will offer me to study graphic communications, which is graphic design and marketing, as well as international business, which is something that I'm very interested in. And I don't know necessarily in what specific aspect that's going to go, but I hope to pursue it in a way that's going to make me happy, because they're both passions that I love. And I think the graphic design aspect of it is something more artistic, but by combining it with business is going to be able to make it successful.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
That Gold Awards are certainly achievable. They are a lot of work, but they definitely pay off in the end. And I had a wonderful experience creating my Gold Award from scratch, and knowing that I made an impact, at least in my community, is something that I appreciate a lot, and a lot of girls should certainly pursue, because there's not a lot of girls that do. And so that's what I would like to share.
And how do you make your s'mores?
I have my graham crackers. I have 2 marshmallows on a stick. I stick them into the fire for a couple of seconds until they get a little crispy, pull them right out, sandwich in between the graham crackers, and put a little bit of chocolate on top. And that's how I make my s'mores. It's very basic.
Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Please check our blog for tips and tricks on your Gold Award project at heartsofgoldpodcast.com. And make sure to click subscribe so you always know when new episodes are released. And don't forget to power your passion and conquer your challenges.
The Hearts of Gold podcast is brought to you by the Grow and Share Network, produced by Off the Walter Media Productions. Thank you for listening and spreading the word on what we do. If you want to share your story of how you earned your Gold Award, reach out and send an email to growandsshare@outlook.com. Be sure to listen to the newest episodes on your favorite podcast app, as well as view the full video episodes on youtube.com/Cheryl M. Robinson. That's youtube.com/Cheryl, the letter M, Robinson. Take care, and we'll see you next time.